Recently, a lot of people have been getting into Marvel Champions, and it's really cool to see. Right, as more people get into the game, the game will last longer. The health of the game is good. Fantasy Flight Games will keep investing in it. We'll keep getting hero packs and big boxes and all that fun stuff. And I really, it's really encouraging to see new people get into the game. So, one of the things I wanted to do was have a quick talk about what I think are the five easiest heroes to play as like a newcomer into the series of the game, right? Like I just and it's hard for me to do because I'm obviously not new to the game and I started with the core box and there's a lot more heroes out there nowadays. So it was kind of tough to narrow this down, but I'm trying to pick also heroes from different points in the game and it's a little rough, it's a little tough, but I tried my best. But these are just 5 heroes that if somebody was new to the game, these are heroes I would recommend. Now, generally speaking, I always try to recommend, people pick heroes that they're interested in thematically, but let's say they wanted to just pick someone that maybe theme wasn't important to them, they just wanna learn, like, the basics of the game, or they wanted a hero that was just kinda really easy to run, that there wasn't a lot of thought process to. So that was the rough idea of this list, is that there's not too many tricky things going on, maybe 1 or 2, for a couple of the heroes, but generally speaking, the heroes aren't that difficult. By no way is this like a final list or anything, like, it's not to say that you can't start with somebody else that's not on this list, and if you want a follow-up video talking about certain heroes or why I didn't put them on the list, we can do that, just let me know that in the comments. But these are just my rough ideas of what I think is, who I think would be good starter heroes to play as. So let's start with number one. All right, really quick before we get into this video, do me a huge favor. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, make sure you do so. Down below the link, just put in your email address and your first name, and then every Monday you'll get a newsletter of the newest videos, some blog posts, some deals I found online for board games, all that fun stuff. Really appreciate everyone that's signed up for that. Also, uh, if you are interested in listening to these videos, but you don't want to do it on YouTube, all these talking head videos are being turned into podcasts. So you just, whatever your podcast player is, go to D20 Woodworking and you can download that on that site. Just make sure to hit the follow button or subscribe or whatever it is on your podcast platform because all that stuff really helps out the channel. Okay. My first one might be a little controversial. No, I don't think that's controversial. But my very first one is Spider-Man from the core box, Peter Parker. The reason why it could be a little weird is because of Spider-Man's Spider Sense interrupt on his hero card, which states when the villain initiates an attack against you, draw one card. This is where the you confusion starts. Some people wonder, well, if I have an ally block for me, do I still do that? Do I still get that? And yes, because the villain is always attacking you, even if an ally of yours is blocking it. So that is one of the confusing things. That's the only card that's kind of iffy, I think, with people with Spider-Man. But once you learn that, like, all right, interrupt happens at the very beginning, villain is starting attack, so they're initiating it, draw a card. Once you learn that, the rest of Spider-Man's kit's pretty straightforward. I think Black Cat's pretty straightforward. Uh, just make sure you pay attention to the no consequential damage on the attack. Backflip, right? You don't take any damage. Pretty simple. Enhanced Spider Sense. When a treachery card is revealed from the counter deck, cancels one reveal effects. Pretty simple. Swinging Web Kick. 3 for 8 damage. Pretty simple. Aunt May. Exhaust Aunt May to heal 4 from Peter Parker. Pretty simple. Spider Tracer. When attached to a minion and when the minion is defeated, remove 3 threat from a scheme. Pretty simple. Web Shooter. Pretty simple with generating a resource. Webbed Up. Pretty simple. I've seen some people have issues with the hero form only part of it, but generally speaking, it seems pretty simple. Eviction Notice is not too tough as an obligation. And then Highway Robbery with Vulture. Vulture can be a pain to deal with, especially with Quick Strike and whatnot. But I feel like once you get kind of the hang of that, he's not terrible, but I get it at first. He can be a little rough. Now, with all that being said, I think what makes him good is Spider-Man's attacks, again, are strong. They're kind of straightforward. Most likely, if you're playing Marvel Champions the first time, most likely you're playing with other people. Not always, of course, but if you're playing with other people, Spider-Man can kind of go there and do his thing, right? With 3 defense, it's a good amount of defense. His attacks are pretty good. Not being able to take or not taking any hits with backflip is kind of nice. If you're playing true solo, it's a little bit tougher because of the one thwart. You have to learn how to deal with that, and I think that's like a good building lesson there. But that part of it can be a little tough and rough, so that is one of the pitfalls to look out for. But other than that, I think he's a strong straightforward hero. I do think he has depth to him. I don't want to make it seem like he's simple and not like an interesting hero or something like that. He's very interesting. He's quite strong. But I think as a first time player, I think most people can pick him up and get the hang of him and not really worry too much about if they're playing him completely correctly. All right, our number two hero is one that unfortunately is a little bit harder to find nowadays. Hopefully, they reprint him soon. I think they will, starting probably earlier next year. But that's a topic for another time. But that is Captain America. The reason I say this is because Captain America is very, very good in basically any aspect you play him, right? Like any aspect you decide to play Captain America, he works. I play him protection, he works. Aggression works. Justice, leadership, all of it. He works really, really well. Again, one of the confusing things can be with Steve Rogers' alter ego side, reduce the one living legend, reduce the cost of the first ally played each round. If you're playing multiplayer, that's not just you as Steve Rogers, that's you and your teammates. So it's important note. But other than that, I feel like he's just very straightforward again in the way that he plays. I could do this all day on his hero side. You just discard a card from your hand to ready Captain America, right? That's straightforward. Agent 13 is straightforward. After she enters play, remove two threat from the scheme. Okay. Fearless Determination. Captain America gets +1 thwart until the end of the phase and you draw one card. All right, easy enough. Heroic Strike. Deal 6 damage to an enemy if you pay for this card using a fist resource. Stun the enemy. Okay. Shield Block. When you would take any amount of damage, exhaust Captain America's shield to prevent all that damage. Easy enough. Shield Toss. Discard X cards from your hand and return Captain America's shield from your play. Sometimes people forget that, like me. But generally speaking, pretty straightforward. Dealing 4 damage to X enemies. Steve's Apartment. Exhaust Steve's Apartment to draw one card. Heal 1 damage from Steve Rogers. Easy enough. His shield. Pretty easy. Gets +1 defense and gains retaliate. His helmet, when he would be defeated, right? You reset it. And then his resource generators, having 2 of them is really, really nice. This kind of goes along with Spider-Man too. Spider-Man has the web shooters, which are resource generators, but the super soldier serums are just that much better because you can keep using them because they're not limited. So I think for newer players, having those 2 resource generators is really nice. It lets you play more cards from your hand, which just makes it stronger and better, I think, overall. Now, his nemesis is Baron Zemo with Hit Squad. Again, he can be a little tough to deal with. He's not easy, but Captain America is generally strong enough that he could take out Baron Zemo pretty quick. He could take out the Hydra soldiers. Hail Hydra's not too bad. Hit Squad. Man at a time. Again, you just, as an obligation, flip to Steve and exhaust them or discard half your cards. Nothing too crazy, but I think the best thing for him really is that you can be any aspect and still do really well with Captain America. And that's why I think he works really well for kind of like the beginner that's out there. All right, so next up, number 3, we have Ant-Man. Now, Ant-Man, I don't like as much as Wasp, but I think Wasp has some trickiness to her that makes her kind of tough to play. So, one of the harder things for most people, I think, is them realizing when they can flip to big Ant-Man versus small Ant-Man, or tiny and giant, I should say. I get that there's some confusion with that and it could be a little rough, but once you figure out you can just do it once each turn, it's pretty easy. So little Ant-Man, again, after you change his form, remove a threat. After you change to big Ant-Man, deal 1 damage to enemy. After you change to Scott Lang, heal 1 damage. Like all that stuff is inherently very simple to understand. The hardest thing is like cards like Giant Stomp or Hive Mind, right? So Giant Stomp, you have to be in giant form. Just making sure you remember those things. I think not that they're hard, but they might throw you off. But deal 1 damage to each minion, 8 damage to an enemy. It's really good basic stuff. Hive Mind, play if you're only tiny. All right, remove 2 threat from the scheme. 1 additional scheme for each army of ants support you control, right? Very simple. Resize, change to your other hero form. Is very straightforward instead of just changing forms, which might confuse people maybe. You get to draw a card, so it's a really basic card. Army of Ants and how it works. If you're a tiny hero form, exhaust it to deal 1 damage to your enemy. There's a bunch of them, which is really simple. Pin Particles, spend the card as a resource and you get the things that are on it. So heal 2 damage if you're in giant form or draw 1 card if you're in tiny form. The helmet, again, as a response, it's pretty straightforward in how it works with giant form healing 2 damage from your hero after you change. And tiny, after you change, you get to draw a card, which is really nice. And then giant strength, after you change to giant form, you get +1 attack until the end of the turn. Again, really kind of simple-ish stuff. And then Risk Gauntlets, which I don't know if many people play Risk Gauntlets. I don't. The Stun and Confuse is nice, but I still feel like it could be a bit tough to deal with. So Anyway, care for Casey is the obligation. Again, it's another exhaust Scott Lang after you flip to him to remove it from the game. Or you can choose and discard one card from your hand. You cannot change form until your next turn begins. You discard this obligation. That's not too bad. Yellow Jacket is tricky because what Yellow Jacket does depends on what size you are, so that can throw people off, right? So if you're in giant form, he's also giant and gains retaliate. If you're tiny, Yellow Jacket gets +1 attack. Hopefully, though, with him only being 4 life, you can kind of just take out Yellow Jacket pretty quick. And then the upgrades or the attachments kind of stink. They're tough to deal with, but they're straightforward tough. So I think Ant-Man's kit is very self-contained. It encourages you to flip each turn, which is good to learn, I think. Between like Big Ant-Man and Little Ant-Man. I think all that stuff is really good. I think in general, like his card set is very strong. It's very straightforward. And again, anything that's kind of straightforward, I think is going to help you out as a player. I think it's just again going to make your life easier, which is what I kind of look for in this. That I wouldn't have to coach you along on how to quote unquote play the hero effectively. I think most people would kind of figure it out pretty quick. And I think that's part of what makes Ant Man so strong. I know a lot of people like Ant Man because he's strong. I do agree. He can be strong. I think the reason he gets so strong is also because it's so straightforward, right? And it's just there's a lot you could do with exhausting Ant-Man to thwart 2 as the small side, or you flip up to exhaust him as 3 in the big side. Right? Like, there's so many little things you can do. So I think that makes it pretty dynamic and kind of easier for new players to kind of get used to that mechanic. All right, the next one, number 4 on my list, is one of my favorite heroes. And I do think there is a learning curve to him, but once you kind of get it, it's really strong and it's just very beginner friendly because Wolverine heals. I think as a solo player your first time, one of the hard things with playing the game is learning when you can flip down and heal up. And when you have a hero like Wolverine who just heals each player phase, that takes some of the pressure off. Now, again, his life is a resource in the game for the vast majority of the time. So you have to learn how to balance that. But being able to just kind of heal with Wolverine, I think makes life a lot easier. Um, I think I think it kind of gets you into that groove of okay, I don't always have to flip down, which is nice. I can still heal, take a turn off from using my Wolverine's claws, all that fun stuff. So I'm a big fan of Wolverine in general. Again, after the hero phase begins, you heal 2 damage. His clause is basically you exhaust the clause, you choose an attack event in your hand, you take damage equal to the printed cost, and then you get to play that card for free, and it gains piercing, which is really, really strong. Tough can always be rough to deal with as a new player. And then once you get things out like Adamantium Skeleton, it gives you +4 hit points, and he gets +1 to his attack with piercing. Stuff is really strong, right? And Berserker Barrage is good. Lunging Strike is really good. Track by Sense really good in play. Regenerative Healing, so you can heal up on your hero side, is really good. So Track by Scent again is a 2 cost 3 removal card. Lunging Strike is a 3 for 8 damage card. It gains Overkill if you use the claws on it. I'm sorry. Also, I should have mentioned with Track by Scent, if you remove the last scheme, you get to draw 2 cards, which is really strong. Regenerative Healing is a 1 cost event that lets you heal 4 damage from your identity or discard each stun and confused status card from your identity, which is good. Berserker Barrage is now a 2 cost event. Deal 4 damage to enemy. If it defeats it, you may take 2 damage. It's kind of a weird card because if you use Wolverine's claws, you're taking like a lot of damage there, so people don't play it as often, but it can work obviously. And Logan's Cabin is a 1 cost support. Exhaust Logan's Cabin, shuffle 1 Wolverine card from your discard pile back into your deck. I Got Better is this 4 cost upgrade. When you would be defeated by an enemy attack, instead set your hit point dial to 5, ready your identity, and discard this card. Again, can be really helpful for people that are having a hard time managing their hand or managing their health. Sorry. Berserker Frenzy, a 2 cost upgrade. After Wolverine takes any amount of damage, you get to draw a card, which is really nice. But if you go to Alter Ego, you discard this card. Now, there is one card that I've kind of skipped a few times here, and that is Slice and Dice, the 3 cost attack. The reason being is because this could be the one hard card that kind of trips people up. It still trips me up to this day. So make the following 2 attacks in order. Deal 3 damage to enemy, deal 3 damage to enemy. For those that don't know, if you're playing against Zola or something like that that retaliates you, you would get retaliated twice for this card because it's 2 instances of attacks. If it had just a deal 3 damage to an enemy and then deal 3 damage to an enemy, like as a run sentence. That would have been one instance of attack. So that stuff gets kind of confusing and can throw new players off. So that's the one hard thing that you have to make note of with Wolverine. But once you get over that, I think you're pretty good to kind of go with him. The one warning is that Omega Red is a tough nemesis. Past demons, again, is really easy. Flip to alter ego, exhaust Logan, remove it from the game, or you can be stunned and confused, which stinks. But if you get the regenerative healing card, it gets rid of it. So maybe that works out. But that was the obligation. But Omega Red is a minion. Has 8 life, retaliate 1 steady. When Omega Red attacks you, deal 1 damage to each character you control, which is rough. His side scheme is while it's in play, Omega Red can't be defeated. So you kind of have to focus on, okay, clearing that side scheme first and then take out Omega Red. His cards can be rough because after your turn ends, you take a damage unless you do an alter ego interrupt where you make a basic recovery, then you can get rid of the card. The Tentacle Strike card, when revealed, you are stunned, take 1 damage and take 1 damage. 4 damage if you're already stunned. So that part can be rough dealing with, and the whole slice and dice thing. But I think if you get past those things, having a hero where you don't have to worry about health as much, like you worry about it because it's a resource, but I feel like he's very straightforward in the way he plays. He does big attacks, big swings. He's really, really good in true solo. Jubilee as his ally is pretty strong. Again, after she enters play, choose an enemy until the end of the phase while Wolverine or Jubilee is making a basic attack against that enemy. They get +2 for attack is really strong, right? There's a lot of different things that are strong and good with Wolverine. And I think he's just very forgiving and beginner friendly in that sense and can be really strong. And it's just a good feeling overall when you're first playing the game. It's weird learning how to use health as a resource, but once you do, I think it's pretty solid in a pretty, again, not easy. I won't make say easy, but straightforward hero to play. All right, we're at our last one, and our last one is a little weird because I think it's really easy, but I don't know if other people would, and that is Angel. So Angel doesn't get a lot of play, I think, nowadays because he's kind of so event heavy, and there's not too much going on. He is, in my opinion, very straightforward. So again, he's another 3-sided card. So when you're like regular aerial angel, after you play an aerial event, draw 1 card, which is really nice. If you're on Warren's alter ego side, heal 1 damage from him. Just like you just get to do that, which is really nice. Archangel does have an acceleration icon, which stinks. But after you play an aerial event, deal damage equal to that event's printed cost, which is really nice. Allows him to do a lot of damage. Psylocke as an ally is a 1/1/3 stat line, and after she attacks, you can either heal as Angel or ready your hero as Archangel. Like healing and readying up is really nice. Adaptive Plumage as an event, 3-cost event. If you're Angel, remove 3 threat from a scheme and confuse an enemy. If you're Archangel, deal 4 damage to enemy and stun it. Aerial Agility is a 1-cost defense event. When an enemy attacks you, if you're Angel, ignore the boost icons and each boost ability. Or Archangel, give your hero a tough status and gain retaliate for this attack, right? Like, really nice stuff. Metamorphosis, 2-cost event, change form. Then, if you're Worthington, sorry. Draw 1 card. If you're Angel, remove 2 threat from a scheme. If you're Archangel, deal 3 damage to an enemy. Natural Flight, 2-cost event. It's 2 for 4 threat removal. If you're Angel, you ignore the Crisis icon and the Patrol icon. And then Razor Dive is this big 3-cost event attack. Deals 6 damage to enemy. If you're Archangel, this gains Overkill and Piercing. And again, if you're Archangel, it would deal another 3 damage. So it would really be 3 for 9 damage, which is really strong and nice to have. Then you have Avian Anatomy, which is a resource card. After you spend this card to pay for an aerial event, return that event to your hand after resolving its effects, which is crazy. And then his support is his Industries, exhaust Worthington Industries to shuffle 1 aerial card from your discard pile back into your deck. If you're alter ego, draw 1 card. Really strong support card because you don't have to be alter ego to use it. It's obviously better if you are, but you don't have to be. And then Techno-Organic Wings, 3-cost upgrade. You can exhaust it. If you're Angel, you're ready here. Archangel, reduce the cost of the next aerial card you play this phase by 2, which is crazy. I mean, he's a very, very strong hero. And again, kind of event heavy and straight to the kind of straight to the point. I will say though, this is the one where the obligation is a bit tougher Because when revealed, if your Archangel form, place 2 threat in the main scheme, otherwise change to Archangel, and then it's an alter ego action. Deal the first player 1 encounter card to discard his card. You're going to get bad cards each round. This is my one iffy thing because this obligation is a bit rougher than some of the others, but I think it's all right still. Harpoon is his nemesis, 1/1/6 stat line. Harpoon gets +1 attack, uh, +1 attack while attacking a character with aerial trait, which, okay, so it's 2 attack. And when revealed, discard cards on the top of the encounter deck until you discard an event and take indirect damage equal to the event's printed cost. So in his side scheme, hook, line, and sinker, each attack from a brute enemy deals indirect damage. So you can't just chump block everything with harpoon. So you have to make special note of that. And then after a friendly character takes any mana damage, exhaust that character, which is also really rough. So that his nemesis and obligation is a bit rougher, but I think they're rougher because his cards are so good. Again, it's very event heavy. There's not a lot of build that has to be done. Not that build out's bad or anything, but it's very event heavy, and I think people inherently can kind of understand, like, play the event, do the thing, and it does really well. And there's not too many triggers off of each other, just to notice what form you are, and I think that helps just ease a lot of things in Marvel Champions to just, again, make the game easier for people, make it straightforward. But I think Angel, I think is actually part of the reason why a lot of people don't really play him that much anymore, is because he's so straightforward and quote unquote easy that there isn't that much depth to him. But I think as a new player, that can be like a really good thing for you to just like focus on those event cards and play just a really strong hero with good event cards. Hey, before you go, really quick, if you are usually a YouTube watcher and you have Amazon Prime and haven't set up a Twitch account, make sure you go connect your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account, because it allows you to follow channels like mine or some of the other Marvel Champion streamers that are out there, and you can give them free money each month. You already paid for it, so you might as well use it. Basically, it's known as an Amazon Prime sub. You go to whatever your favorite account is, make sure you're following them, and then you hit the subscribe button, turning on Amazon Prime sub. It gives streamers real money, and again, it doesn't cost you anything because you've already paid for it. So make sure you do that feature if you have not done that yet with your Amazon Prime account, connecting it to Twitch. It's a big thing for streamers. It really, really helps us out, and we really appreciate it. All right, so that's my top 5 list. Again, there's other heroes I think you could easily make arguments for to be on this list, or other heroes that maybe some of these heroes don't line up with what you think should be on this list. And if that's the case, let me know down in the comments. I'm interested in hearing other people's thoughts, because like people like Hulk, for example, I think are pretty straightforward, but it can be really tricky with having a hero that doesn't have any thwarting, right? That could be hard to do. I know some people might say Doctor Strange is a good one. And yeah, he's really OP, but it could be a little tricky with figuring out exactly the best time to like use invocation cards. Not use them, but like there's certain invocation cards you can get tripped up on. Like if you get stuck on, like how do you handle that and whatever. And just understanding how to use Wong. I mean, you could probably put Strange on this list too if you really wanted to. But and there's other heroes too as well. So that's why I want to know down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts of who you would recommend to a new player, of some just, again, straightforward heroes that you think are good, that are solid, either multiplayer or solo. It doesn't really matter which, but are just kind of, they make sense when you play them the first time. You know, there isn't a ton of thought process behind it. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I really appreciate you all watching all this. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all the fun stuff, and I will see you all next time.